Today, Rwanda's capital Kigali stands as a symbol of resilience and rebirth. Its clean streets and modern buildings tell a story of remarkable recovery. But beneath this peaceful facade lies a history that serves as one of humanity's darkest warnings. Before European colonization, Rwanda was a sophisticated kingdom under the rule of the Mwami, the royal court. The population, Hutus, Tutsis, and Twa, shared 19 clans, spoke one language, and followed the same traditions. While social differences existed, the lines between groups remained fluid, based primarily on wealth and occupation, rather than rigid ethnicity. The kingdom operated through Ubuhake, a complex feudal system where cattle marked social status. Court historians documented cases of social mobility, Hutus becoming Tutsis through cattle acquisition, and Tutsis becoming Hutus through cattle loss. Marriage between groups was common, creating intricate family networks that transcended social boundaries. German colonization brought the first fractures to this system. German anthropologists began categorizing Rwandan society through a European racial lens, developing theories of Tutsi superiority despite no historical basis. Colonial records show the introduction of a money economy, disrupting traditional cattle-based social structures and forcing many into wage labor. The Germans, operating with minimal personnel, maintained much of the existing power structure. However, their presence began altering traditional relationships. Tax systems changed, military organizations shifted, and European racial theories started seeping into administrative policies. Belgian colonial rule marked a decisive turn toward ethnic division. Within their first year, Belgian administrators replaced 45% of existing chiefs with those loyal to colonial interests. They dismantled Rwanda's traditional three-chief system, where different leaders managed land, cattle, and military affairs, replacing it with a single hierarchical structure. The Catholic Church became instrumental in this transformation. Mission schools throughout Rwanda taught a curriculum emphasizing racial differences. Church documents from 1920 show explicit instructions to treat Tutsis as superior, based on the discredited Hamitic hypothesis, claiming Tutsis descended from European or Ethiopian ancestry. In 1933, Belgian administrators conducted a nationwide census that would change Rwanda forever. Colonial officials measured physical features of over 2 million Rwandans: nose width, height, skull shape, using these arbitrary distinctions to determine ethnicity. The resulting identity card system created rigid categories where flexibility had once existed. The impact was immediate and far-reaching. Education records show Tutsi students receiving 85% of school placements, despite representing only 15% of the population. Civil service positions became almost exclusively Tutsi domains. Marriage records show a sharp decline in intergroup marriages as colonial administrators actively discouraged such unions. By 1957, decades of Belgian favoritism toward Tutsis had created deep resentment among the Hutu majority. The Hutu Manifesto, published by 9 Hutu intellectuals, including future President Gregoire Kayibanda, directly challenged Tutsi privilege. Colonial records document 45 separate incidents of violence in 1959 alone, as Hutu groups began targeting Tutsi authorities. Rwanda's independence in 1962 marked not freedom, but a violent power shift. Under President Kayibanda, government records show systematic purges of Tutsis from schools, civil service, and military positions. Over 100,000 Tutsis fled to neighboring countries during this period, creating a refugee crisis that would span generations. General Juvenal Habyarimana's military coup in 1973 brought a facade of stability through increasingly authoritarian control. His one-party state, the MRND, maintained power through mandatory membership for all Rwandans. Government documents show identity cards checked at weekly community meetings called umuganda, while schools and workplaces enforced strict ethnic quotas. The regime's seemingly stable surface masked growing pressures. World Bank data shows Rwanda's economy in crisis by the late 1980s, with coffee prices dropping 50% between 1986 and 1991. IMF-mandated structural adjustments cut government services. Per capita income fell to $250, lower than at independence. these economic pressures would prove fertile ground for extremism. October 1st, 1990 marked a turning point. The Rwandan Patriotic Front, formed by refugee children who had grown up in Uganda, launched their invasion. Military records show 4,000 RPF fighters, many veterans of Uganda's civil war, crossing the border under the command of Paul Kagame, former head of Uganda's military intelligence. President Habyarimana's response was immediate and severe. Government forces arrested 8,000 Tutsis in Kigali within days. French military support for the government included documented arms shipments worth $6 million between 1990 and 1992. The civil war would continue for 3 years, destroying Rwanda's already fragile economy and heightening ethnic tensions. The preparation for genocide was methodical and well documented. Government records show the importation of 581,000 machetes in 1993 alone, one for every 3 adult Hutu males. Radio RTLM began broadcasting in July 1993, mixing popular music and humor with increasingly violent anti-Tutsi propaganda. The Arusha Peace Accords, signed August 4, 1993, mandated power sharing between Hutus and Tutsis. UN peacekeeping commander Romeo Dallaire arrived to monitor the agreement, but with limited resources. His documented requests for 4,500 troops resulted in only 2,548 being deployed, with restricted mandates that prevented intervention. At 8:23 p.m. on April 6, 1994, surface-to-air missiles struck President Habyarimana's plane as it approached Kigali airport. Within hours, the Presidential Guard and Interahamwe militia began executing a predetermined plan. The first targets were moderate Hutu politicians who might have opposed the killing, including Prime Minister Agatha Uwilingiyimana. Radio RTLM immediately began broadcasting orders, directing killers to specific locations. Roadblocks appeared across Kigali, where Interahamwe checked identity cards. Those marked Tutsi faced immediate execution. This wasn't random violence. Seized documents show it was methodically planned and executed. Over the next 3 months, the killing spread systematically across Rwanda. Churches became slaughterhouses. 10,000 killed at Nyamata, 5,000 at Ntarama, 20,000 at Nyarubuye. UN reports document killers working with horrifying efficiency, reaching rates of 8,000 deaths per day. The international response reflected a shocking failure of will. After 10 Belgian peacekeepers were murdered on April 7th, the UN Security Council voted to reduce UNAMIR forces from 2,548 to just 270 personnel. The United States, still haunted by Somalia, refused to use the word genocide, instead referring to acts of genocide to avoid legal obligation to intervene. Diplomatic cables from this period reveal a deliberate avoidance of responsibility. UN Secretary-General Boutros Boutros-Ghali's urgent requests for intervention were met with bureaucratic delays. Meanwhile, French Operation Turquoise, launched in June, effectively provided safe passage for many genocide perpetrators to escape into Zaire. The RPF's military campaign finally ended the genocide, but too late for hundreds of thousands. They captured Kigali on July 4th and declared victory on July 17th. By then, UN reports estimate 800,000 people had been killed, approximately 75% of the Tutsi population. Up to 500,000 women had been raped, many deliberately infected with HIV. The aftermath brought new crises. 2 million people fled Rwanda, mostly to Zaire. Among them were many genocide perpetrators who would continue to destabilize the region. Refugee camps became breeding grounds for cholera, killing an estimated 50,000 people near Goma alone. The search for justice began slowly. The International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, established in 1995, would eventually indict 93 individuals, including former Prime Minister John Kambanda, the first head of government convicted of genocide by an international court. Within Rwanda, 12,000 community-based Gacaca courts tried nearly 2 million cases between 2001 and 2012. Today's Rwanda has achieved remarkable transformation under President Paul Kagame. World Bank data shows annual GDP growth averaging 8% since 2000. Women hold 61% of parliamentary seats, the highest percentage globally. The country has become a model for post-conflict reconstruction, though critics note this progress comes with strict political control. Every April, Rwanda observes Kwibuka, Remember, in Kinyarwanda. The Kigali Genocide Memorial holds the remains of over 250,000 victims. Their stories serve as eternal witnesses to humanity's capacity for both unfathomable cruelty and extraordinary resilience. In these thousand hills, the past and future meet. Rwanda's journey from darkness to recovery offers crucial lessons about the consequences of division and the price of international inaction. The genocide didn't happen overnight. It began with the weaponization of identity, the acceptance of discrimination, and the world's willingness to look away.